Why this is the Speakeasy podcast, where we talk about the behind the scenes of what it is to be a speaker or an author. Now, today's topic is really special to me. It kind of sounds weird, but it really is. Simply because as an introvert, I've had to find ways to really network and sell that didn't mean me being in a crowd of 3,000 people all the time. But it really meant me honing in on where my target was and who my target was and just speaking to them directly. And a lot of times when you're coming in as a speaker or an author, the problem comes in is that you see all of these different strategies, but you don't know how to make it yours. And so I love today's topic because today's topic is something that you can make it yours. Like you can critique it, you can switch it around, you can see what, play around with it, see what works best for you and what may not work so well. But guess what? It's all going to be a part of that process. You know why? Because you got to take action. Remember, it's all about execution. You got to take action when it comes to the topic we're talking about today. So I'm excited about my guest for today. Hi, Brynne.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm like sitting here all giggles and smiles because we'll also be talking about one of my new favorite platforms. And it's kind of oddball because most people don't like LinkedIn. They think LinkedIn is like really blah because they don't know how to use it as a superpower. You know me, I'm silly, y'all. You know, it's all unicorns and rainbows over here, right? But they don't know how to really use it as a superpower. They just think of it as a humdrum, pretty laid back platform. But there's really a lot of people over there, and a lot of your clients may be over there. So first, I want you to introduce yourself to the Speakeasy audience, and then we'll jump right into today's topic.
Well, thank you so much. Just a quick little, I'm the author of the LinkedIn Sales Playbook, a tactical guide to social selling. And really, my passion, my love, my mission, what I was born to do, I really believe is help people leverage LinkedIn to grow their business. It's the most powerful tool. So it may not be all that exciting like Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram. It may not be a party, but it is definitely an amazing networking meeting. It's the ability to search and filter and identify who in your network can help you gain access to your targeted buyers. And there is not another platform in the world where we can truly leverage our networks to find and engage with, exactly the types of people that you're hoping to meet. So that's why I'm excited.
And you know what? We'll start right in that vein right there, the networking piece, because for me, I loathe networking events. The idea of being somewhere and literally people handing you 5,000 business cards. You don't remember who they are. Most of them don't have pictures on them, so you definitely don't know who they are. And you didn't really have that conversation. So when you're looking at the networking piece and thinking, okay, let me go and get onto LinkedIn and network, what's the top 2 things that you tell people to do before they do anything else? What's the top 2 things you tell them to do?
Well, the first thing is you have to put on your networking outfit, right? Like you're not going to go in your jeans and your ripped t-shirt to a business networking meeting. So you don't want to show up on LinkedIn as, a half-hearted profile. So you want to make sure that that profile resonates with the people that you're networking with. And I like to say, move the profiles from a resume to a resource. Bring value from the beginning and make them want to have a conversation with you.
I'm sitting here going, ooh, that part, yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. So that's number 1. Number 2 is make sure you're connecting the right way. To your point, it's amazing how many people will walk into a networking room and just give out cards. It's pointless, right? Like you're just collecting. You might as well open the yellow pages. Same thing with LinkedIn. If you go in and you just randomly connect with people and you don't start a conversation, it's not going to work for you. So the second one, so it's profile is the first one. The second one is don't connect and forget. Start conversations, welcome messages that bring value, and stop trying to sell your stuff and start trying to connect with people and bring value to your network.
You know, and the bring value piece is, I think, and I have to say this, and somebody may get offended, somebody may get mad, and it's okay. I still love you. But I think coming into it, they misconstrue what the value is as a speaker or an author, what value you offer people, how valuable the information is, simply because in society, we really put we kind of are all over the place when it comes to putting value on information.
Yep.
We miss that part.
We do. And so one of the things, it's interesting, we tend to tell our audience what we want them to know versus trying to identify what do they care about. So, and it's not the question, what keeps you up at night? It's really think about what impacts them in their job, in their company, in their industry, with their coworkers, with their clients. What are the things that even in, if you're speaking or the tips in your book that bring value to them, even if they never talk to you? And that's the difference. So I like to say the value you bring needs to be leading to your solution, not leading with your solution. When you lead with your solution, it's here's how we help people. Here's how I can help you. Here's how you can buy from me. When you're leading to your solution, you're providing little value nuggets or breadcrumbs that get them going, ooh, that was good. And they move closer and closer and closer. And then eventually, if you do it well, they raise their hand and say, I've got to have a conversation with this person. If they brought me this much value in blogs and videos and content, imagine the value when I talk to them one-on-one.
That is so true. And I found that the hard way with some bumps and bruises along the way. And, but as we take it into, thinking about this whole sales piece of it, because we miss the conversation piece, we miss the networking piece, and then they just want to go full force into sales, and then they can't understand why they're getting crickets.
Mm-hmm. So stop selling, right? And I know that this is sort of kind of been worn out, but, stop selling, start helping. Really come from a place of servitude, serving, helping. Disconnect yourself from, am I going to make this close? And connect yourself to, can I make an impact on this person today and moving forward? Now, I call it vendor agnostic insights. If the insights that you are providing lead to, they only can get value from it if they hire you, it's not an insight, it's a pitch, right? So you really want to make sure that the value in your insights is standalone. They can take what you've shared and use it without you. And if they do that and they want to do that, then you've made an impact. And you also want to make sure that you're representing as a thought leader and subject matter expert, not as a sales rep.
And so you just said one of my favorite words, which is impact, as well as serve. Because I always tell people service first. When you lead with service, it changes the dynamic of the relationship. When you lead with service, then that also opens up that person wants to go and tell other people about you. They want to go and bring other people to your brand and to your products and your services and your events. And when we're just leading with sales, that person may buy something, but they may never return.
Mm. Right. And you will never know. And you never know why. You don't even recognize because you didn't bring any value beyond what you sold them.
Exactly. Okay, so now, okay, so we get to the networking piece. We've connected. We start to engage. Now, these building blocks, these pillars of selling, what are they? Because can I
Great.
tell you that with social media, we think that a pillar of selling is posting a flyer?
Yeah. So social selling really, first of all, is the process of leveraging platforms and tools to attract, teach, and engage your buyers and convert them from connections to conversations. So let's start there. Our goal, if we are social selling, are more conversations with targeted buyers. So if that's our goal, then we need to make sure that everything that we're doing is working toward that goal, not against it. So there are 4 pillars, as you mentioned. The first one is brand. We just kind of talked about that a little bit. It's positioning you as that thought leader, as that subject matter expert, moving your profile from a resume to a resource so that when people get here, they say, if I can learn this from a profile, imagine what a conversation will bring me. That's number 1. Number 2 is networking and engaging with your existing and new connections. So we sort of covered this a little bit, but tactically, what you want to do first is search your existing connections and identify who have you ignored that you should be talking to. Once you've done, you could do this a couple ways. You could do this through a search on LinkedIn with a first degree filter, and you can also export your connections into an Excel spreadsheet and review them and say, ooh, I forgot about this guy. And, oh, she's great. I haven't talked to her in years. Then you have to come up with a re-engagement plan. What am I going to do to engage with these people? There are a couple things we can do. One, we can see if they're sharing content and authentically read and engage on their content. That's a great way to get a conversation started. If they don't have anything that they're sharing, look at their title and look at what they do and think about what is the content that I can share with them, whether it's original or curated, that would have an impact on their job or, and something that would lead back to your solution. So let's say they are a VP of marketing in a large organization, and you come across a really powerful HubSpot article that can have impact on that marketing person. It doesn't have to be original, but the email you send, you remember these are your first degrees, the email you send or the LinkedIn message you send is, I just read this article, and as a marketing leader at XYZ company, I thought it could really have an impact on your marketing efforts. Here's why, and I will put the 3 things that I learned from that article and why I wanted to share it. Now you're engaging in conversation. You're not selling anything. You're bringing value. One other kind of side note to that, if it's a big enough company where they've got content, grab content or a press release or some news, as long as it's positive, from that company and send a link saying, I just read this article about your company. I'm very impressed with X, Y, and Z. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, but I want to make sure I got it in front of you in case you didn't. And it's like the old, if you look in the newspaper and someone's mentioned, we used to literally cut it out and mail it to them. It's sort of that same thing. So that's the second pillar. How are we networking and engaging? The third pillar is prospecting. And this is the piece that we all tend to do wrong, which is we connect and pitch. We connect and pitch if we're actually prospecting. I'm actually not a huge fan of cold calling on LinkedIn. I'm not saying I've never done it. I have. But what I really love is the ability to search and filter your connections and identify who in your network knows your targeted connections and leverage the relationships you've created to get warm introductions. That's our clients, our centers of influence, our networking buddies. Who do they know that and vice versa, who do we know that can help them? And there's a huge impact in the amount of people that will take a phone call. It's just amazing. More than 50% of the people that an introduction is made to will take the phone call if they've come from a warm introduction. I mean, that's a huge number. So if we position that well and we prospect and then we offer content and welcome messages with real value, we have a very high level of acceptance and phone calls that come out of that. We also need to make sure that it's two ways, that we're giving to, that, we're making as many, if not more, introductions as we're receiving. I'm a true believer in the giver. What you put out there comes back to you. And the fourth one is really engage, sharing content publicly, engaging on other people's content, finding ideal content based on hashtags, engaging with the author of that and all the people that are engaging with them. And then you also start to build a network of people around specific topics that are important to you. That was a lot. Sorry. I just sort of...
That was, but it was definitely necessary, simply because when you get to see the full picture, sometimes you realize, ooh, I'm missing that part. It's almost like the puzzle. And when you're putting the puzzle together, you don't know what it really is supposed to look like because you're not looking at the box. Sometimes you're just looking at the pieces and you're trying to feed them all together. And as an entrepreneur, because again, if you are a speaker, if you are an author, you're an entrepreneur. And so you're trying to put the pieces together. And sometimes you need to step back and look at the box and say, oh, this is backwards.
Yeah. Now it's interesting, most of your audience are entrepreneurs and speakers. So original content is important, although many times for sales reps, curating is fine. But if you're trying to stand out as a speaker that people want, that you want to be brought in for keynotes and breakouts and kickoff meetings and all that fun stuff, they need to see your original content. And by the way, that doesn't have to mean it's a blog post. Original content can be this is original content. Video, leveraging LinkedIn native video is very powerful. Even if you do 3-minute little shticks on, kind of a best practice or a tool, that's going to showcase you as a speaker. If you're an author, go through your book and take out the top 30 tips that come out of that book and use those in little vignettes. So if you're an author, you're a writer. So little blog posts on each of those are fine as well. But there are so many ways to share content that's not necessarily always about writing. So, but that original content is what will get you speaking gigs.
Definitely. And I say that because, a lot of times we think especially I talk about the ones who are just coming in and the ones who are trying to expand, simply because coming in, we thought, we had to do it like so-and-so. We had to sound like this person. So why not talk about the topic that they're talking about or present it in the way that they're presenting it? And I found that me being the unicorn that I am, that doesn't work.
I'm not a fan of mirroring. That is not my favorite technique at all.
And I don't understand it. I get why you feel as though if they were successful doing it, that you could be successful as well, but you're you and they're them. And so your experiences are unique to you. And that's what people want to hear. That's what they want to, touch and feel and be a part of, is that unique experience. So in telling people about these pillars, and what would be the one thing that you would say to them for them to be able to make it their own? I know you said the original content, but what would be another way for them to make it their own?
Well, a lot of it is knowing how to tell your story in a way that resonates with your audience. So I would, if you're a writer, you're probably going to be better at this than other people out there. But, we have lots and lots of stories. I have some stories that people will connect with, and I have some stories where they won't. But if you can take your history and your experiences and really bring that back, that in a way that leads them toward your solution. So these are your takeaways. A quick story. I had someone say to me, a couple of years ago, it was my 10-year anniversary of a breast cancer survivor. And he's like, I'm thrilled, right? Now I'm at 12 already. And I had someone say to me, you've got to write about that on LinkedIn. And I said, I'm not writing that about, this is business. It's not personal. I'll write about it on Facebook, but that's not what we do in LinkedIn. He's like, you have to. They want to connect with you personally. So I ended up writing the article on LinkedIn, but I ended up with, here's what I learned and brought into my business. Yeah. So, these are the takeaways from my personal story, and, what people can learn from my experience to help their business, because that's what I do. So as long as it bridges back to being relevant, I think it's great.
I love that. I love being able to present it in such a way where people fit into the story. They see themselves in the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. They see themselves, and then they look at you and say, okay, if you made it out, I can make it out. If you were able to start the business, I can start the business. If you can get on a stage and talk, then I know I can get on a stage and talk.
Yeah.
That part.
I love it. But you've got to own your story and find the resonating pieces in that story that, your audience are going to connect with.
Exactly. So here's the big question that I always ask everybody who comes on, is that in this journey, there's some bumps and bruises. There's some blunder moments where we feel as though, we look back and we're like, maybe I shouldn't have did that or went there. Mm-hmm. But in thinking about your journey so far and the success that you've been able to achieve, are there things that you can look back on and say, maybe that was not the best idea?
Well, this is more personal, so I don't want to discourage other people. But I, entered into a partnership, gave up my entrepreneurship, and it was not the right path for me. While they're amazing people and they run an amazing business, I recognized I'm an entrepreneur and I want to do things my way. So, I left corporate for a reason. And so, that was probably one of my, and I never look at anything as a mistake. It was an adventure. It was a journey, and it added to who I am today. And, in the bumps and bruises, there were also some great things. But at the end of it, I recognized that I joined because of FOMO, fear of missing out, versus this being the right career move for me. So really understand before you get into any partnerships, what you're getting, what you're giving up, how this will affect you, and will you be happy if you lose some control over certain things? So, that was mine. That said, there are so many partnerships that are incredibly successful. So I don't want to discourage people from doing that. Just do your due diligence and don't do something because you're afraid of not doing it. Do it because you really want to, and it really aligns with your ultimate goals.
I tell people that all the time when it comes to doing anthologies. Because I said, anthologies can be a great experience. My first one was the worst. It was probably the worst experience possible you could ever have with an anthology. It didn't come out on time. It was horrible. But it has its place. Like, there are some things that are great about it, about being able to link up with other authors and do it together. But do that research first. Find out what that process really looks like. And is that process really going to be, worth it for you?
And look at worst case scenario and make sure you're okay with that. Not just best case, But worst case, are you going to be okay with that?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have a question from our audience. They said, so how do you recommend when you have a professional presence on LinkedIn and now you're trying to establish an entrepreneurial presence on LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm. So, if you were talking about you have a job and you're an entrepreneur on the side, you have to blend the two. This is who you are. If you show up at a networking meeting, you're both of those people too, right? So you've got all of that. So you want to make sure you're encompassing everything that you want your audience to know about you. If it's totally two completely disconnected positions, like they have nothing in common, I have no problem with saying, hey, I wear two hats. By day I do this and by night I do that. And if it's connected, speak generally how you bring value in a way that it can fit both your day job and your entrepreneurial job. The other thing is LinkedIn has done a wonderful, wonderful job, which I don't say often, but of updating their experience section so you can really highlight a lot of your offerings and a lot more of the value you can bring at each position. And then the other piece, if you go, well, which one do I do first? Think about whichever one you want your audience to focus on, and whichever one you're going to use to prospect is how you highlight that. But I'm a big fan of encompassing all your parts your professional in LinkedIn.
Right. It's that, it's that Superman and Clark Kent.
Yes, and they should both show up.
Exactly. And so I'll leave with this. I'll let this be our last question for today. When it comes to the brand new things, because we know that everybody runs towards the new things. Right now we have LinkedIn ads. And so people are kind of up in the air. Should I use LinkedIn ads to add people to my connections on LinkedIn? Is that a great idea? I see you shaking your head. You're like, no.
So there's an amazing place for LinkedIn ads in large companies. Sales Navigator Enterprise is the most premium sales product you can buy. And that's for companies that have sales teams really of 5 or more. But sales reps have the ability to save leads, and then LinkedIn ads connect to that and will advertise only to those leads. So if you have a company where you've got the Enterprise Sales Navigator, LinkedIn ads are freaking awesome. But for an individual who's doing, their business development, I have not seen the return for small businesses and entrepreneurs yet. What I'd highly recommend are drive people to your website from LinkedIn and cookie them and use Facebook ads and Google ads, but drive them to get indexed on your, cookied on your website. So continue with your re-engagement ads, but drive them from LinkedIn to your website so they can get cookied and then advertise to them on Google and Facebook.
See, that's powerful because we all know, and I tell people all the time, I said, when you think about what's new or what has the new pretty signs on it, a lot of times you have to realize that it's not really new. And even when we look at the Facebook ads and how popular they have become, Facebook ads are really just the door-to-door salesman technique with technology added. With a little technology added. It makes it easier, but it's literally, hey, I walk to your home and in the backyard there's a playground. So you have kids, so you're probably going to be more likely to buy this vacuum because your kids make messes.
I love that analogy. I think that's awesome. I do. And I think, from what I understand, and this is not my world, but the re-engagement campaigns where people that you've already gotten to your website now are brought back time after time tend to be the best bang for your buck. But that's not my world necessarily.
Oh no, that's understandable. And like I said, but that's always like one of those things that we kind of fight with because we know that in the beginning we kind of waste money trying to do everything and find a little magic pill sometimes. And so that was literally one of those.
Yeah. There's no pixie dust with LinkedIn. It takes work, but it's so much easier than any other kind of work once you have a plan. And that's the key. For me, every one of my clients gets a playbook. They know what to do. We've customized message templates for them, and they know how to go to market. And it's like a gym membership, right? Like you can buy it, but just because you're paying every month doesn't mean that you're going to get in shape. right? So you have to make sure you know when it's arm day, and you know when it's leg day, and you know when you have your yoga class. And that's how I look at LinkedIn. You've got to know what to do and when to do it, and not do these random acts of social that get people kind of spinning their wheels saying, why am I not getting in shape? You've got to have a plan.
So I so love that analogy because we're about to get ready for that whole new transition of Happy New Year, new me. So I love that. I'm so excited and thankful that you came on the episode for today, because this is something that's definitely a topic that needs to not only be heard, but reheard. Like, we got to rehearse this one over and over again. There's no getting it right on the first time. Sometimes we are going to come up against some bumps and bruises, but that's okay. You keep going and seeing what works best for you. So I love that part of it. Definitely tell them where they can find you, how they can get the book, because I know I'm going to go get my copy.
So I'm the only Brynne Tillman on LinkedIn currently. So you can find me on LinkedIn and let me know that you heard this podcast, and I'll send you some resources and gifts and free stuff. So connect with me on LinkedIn and just let me know that you just use hashtag speakeasy and I got you covered, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing is, because my goal with social selling is to have more phone calls, I invite anyone that has questions to a phone call. So you can go to scheduleacallwithbrynne.com and schedule your 15 minutes with me. Bring your questions. This is all about you. And you can get my book on Amazon. It's the LinkedIn Sales Playbook, or you can go to linkedinbook.info, and that'll take you to Amazon.
So I'm excited, guys. You guys know that LinkedIn has become my new playground, because as I expand, and especially with the podcast, being able to grow over there, I've been building engagement over in LinkedIn. So if you haven't connected with me over there, I don't know what you're waiting on, but join the conversation. We're always talking about something new. And also a lot of these episodes are over on LinkedIn for you to be able to check out as well. So you have that option too. But for those of you that are speakers and authors and coaches, I would love to have you on as guests. If you go to bit.ly/speakeasy podcast, all lowercase, you can choose a date that works best for you to come and be a guest on the podcast with me, your host, Altamise Pelzer, the voice coach, professional speaker, certified life coach, Amazon bestselling author, and podcaster. And guys, listen, I know we don't always get it right, and that's okay. It's a learning process, but the Speakeasy podcast is appreciative of you, because without no you, there would be no us. And we want to make sure that you can be that successful author or speaker that you wanted to be. So until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.